Speaker, top Liberal advisor Warren Kinsella has suggested that women politicians would prefer to bake cookies than to be in politics. He said Chinese food contains cat meat. He has made threats to Ontario's public broadcaster, TVO. He's even made threats to his own Liberal MP for Pickering Scarborough East, saying he would, quote, tell the truth, end of quote, about him.
Unbelievable.
Well, Mr. Speaker, most recently Warren has even been threatening the Canadian-Israel Committee and said that he would use his Liberal affiliation to get the organization blacklisted from his party. Now Kinsella is even musing about suing the CIC, a non-partisan advocacy group. Are his beliefs the beliefs of the Liberal Party? They believe they can threaten, bully people, and make sexist comments about women politicians? Won't the Liberal leader demonstrate leadership, do the right thing, fire him?
Right.
Honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday in Brampton, the Prime Minister was accusing the opposition of holding up the estimates. But understanding Order 81, as he should know, it's the government that brings forward the date for the vote on the estimates. And guess what date they chose? March the 24th. So either the Prime Minister doesn't understand the rules of the House and of his own government, or he was misleading Canadians yesterday. Which is it?
Mr. Speaker, the real question that has to be decided here is whether the NDP is interested in helping Canadian workers and families or simply in playing political games. Mr. Speaker, the leader of the NDP made clear from the day of the election on that he had no intention of supporting the government or its budget no matter what was in it. For that reason, he didn't read it. He's now voting against all kinds of benefits that workers and families want. He should take off his blinders and start to act just a little bit positively for a change.
Honourable member for Toronto.
Yesterday he was using some pretty selective stats on GDP to try to paint his rosy picture of the economy. But the government's own finance department says that gross domestic income provides the best measure and is a more relevant indicator of change in the well-being of Canadians than GDP. And guess what? The Parliamentary Budget Officer's report today showed that when it comes to GDI, Canada is doing 10 times worse than the United States. So when is this government going to do something about the shrinking incomes of the middle?
Mr. Speaker, the leader of the NDP talks about employment insurance. He had demanded before the budget that the government add 2 extra weeks of benefits to employment insurance. So you know, Mr. Speaker, in the budget, the government added 5 extra weeks. But since the leader of the NDP had already decided he would vote against it no matter what, then he voted against more than he was asking for. Mr. Speaker, this just tells you how, under his leadership, the NDP has gone from a party that used to stand for something to a party that simply opposes everything.
The honourable member.
The Liberal leader shamefully claimed that the Prime Minister was singing happy songs when he correctly stated that Canada's economy has remained relatively strong compared to other industrialized nations. Instead of irresponsibly talking down the Canadian economy, the Liberal leader should look at the facts, listen to the experts, and stand up for our economy. Can the Minister of Finance tell this House what the International Monetary Fund actually said about Canada's economic position?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I certainly can, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for Edmonton-Leduc for the question. He, of course, has done an excellent job shepherding the budget bill on an expeditious basis through the Finance Committee, his role as chair of the Finance Committee. Would that could be said for the Finance Committee in the Senate, chaired by a Liberal senator. We have a plan. The Liberals are delaying the economic plan in the Senate. And all the worse because the International Monetary Fund, I say to the member for Wascana, said this today, and I know he'll want to know this. They said Canada is better placed than many countries to weather the global financial turbulence and worldwide recession.